you are preparing for your IELTS, I know you might be super nervous to face your examiner in the speaking test. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am your coach Annie and I am here to help you with your spoken English, your vocabulary and your communication skills. In this video, I have compiled some tips for your speaking test that will help you be more confident and better prepared for your test day. For both IELTS on paper, which means the offline exam, and IELTS on computer, which is the online exam, the speaking test is divided into 3 parts. You will be better prepared if you know and understand what clearly happens in the 3 parts of these tests. In part 1, you will have a 4 to 5 minute conversation with your IELTS examiner. The topics generally include work, your lifestyle, your family, your career and some personal interests. In the second part, you will be given a topic. You will have exactly 1 minute to prepare for the topic. You will be provided with a pen and a paper so that you can note down whatever you want to talk about. And then you are going to speak on the topic for nearly 2 to 3 minutes. In part 3, you will again have a conversation with your examiner. But this time the topic and the questions will be based on the topic that you spoke on in the part 2. Part 3 takes about 3 to 4 minutes to complete. So let us look at what all you can do to be better prepared for this test. Tip number 1, don't memorize the answers. Now, what a lot of students do is in the first part, there are some common questions that are, generally asked and people try to memorize the answers. No. Don't try to memorize your answers because the examiner wants to judge how well you are or how fluent you are, and if you give them a memorized answer, they will not be able to judge you upon that. So you might well lose marks for that. So don't memorize your answers. Tip number 2, this is very obvious, but don't use big and unfamiliar words. You have to speak in such a way that you are understood. Communication is the key. Just to impress your examiner, don't feel the need to use big and rich words. If you are comfortable with basic words and vocabulary, you are good to go. No need to, force yourself to speak using different words that you are unfamiliar with just to impress your examiner. Tip number 3, very related to tip number 2, use simple sentences. Your goal is not to show off your English or your vocabulary, but to have a conversation. So make sure that you use simple and basic sentences in which you are comfortable to talk. Tip number 4, don't worry about your accent. And most importantly, don't put on or don't try to put on a fake accent. Your accent depends on the place you come from and it has nothing to do with how fluent you are at English. British English or American English, like the accent, British accent or the American accent is no way superior than other accents. It just means that you come from that place. So make sure that you don't fake an accent, and it is completely okay and normal to accept your accent and talk in your own accent, as long as your pronunciation is clear and you are understood. If you say water, if you say water, or if you say water, unless the other person gets it, you're good to go. Tip number 5, pause to think. When you are asked a question, we immediately rush to give an answer, and we might often fumble or make mistakes when we are in a rush to give the answer. So pause to think. Whenever you are asked a question, there's nothing wrong with taking a pause and thinking about it. You can just use fillers such as that's a good question, or give me a minute to think about it, and then you just talk about it and take pauses. It's you're not forced to speak continuously, so take pauses and make sure that you think before you speak. Tip number 6 is to avoid fillers. Don't use words such as these are some common fillers, but there are other fillers that are unique to other persons. For example, some people have the habit of saying or maybe like repeatedly. So this is again a filler word. Try to record yourself when you are practicing, and try to see what kind of filler words you are using it, and then consciously try to minimize the use of that. Don't use filler words. Tip number 7 is to extend your answers. Whenever you are asked a question, try to elaborate more on it. Just don't, finish it very quickly. Elaborate your answers, extend your answers. If you are, just talking about something, or you give your opinion and the examiner asks you maybe why, or, to explain that, go ahead and extend your answer, because it means that the examiner wants you to talk more about that or wants to know your opinion on that. So make sure to extend your answers. Don't finish very quickly. If you are asked a question, give the complete answer and try to elongate your answer. Tip number 8, smiling improves your pronunciation. When you smile, your face muscles are relaxed and you can pronounce properly, as well as you make less mistakes because you are calm and composed. So make sure that you have a natural and gentle smile on your face whenever you are talking with your examiner. Tip number 9, everything doesn't have to be true. For example, if you are given a cue card about describe a place or a city that you like the most and you haven't visited that city, so you cannot say that I haven't visited that city so I cannot talk about it. It's okay, you can just say that I haven't visited it, but from my knowledge, or from what I have heard over the internet, social media, or even in the books, I can say so and so thing about the topics. It is not compulsory for you to have actually experienced that thing. You can talk about others' experiences as well, because it does not have to be true. So make sure that if there is a topic that you have not experienced it yourself, you can mention that and go ahead to talk about others' experience, or maybe something that you've seen and heard on the internet. So everything does not have to be true. And last tip, which is very obvious, practice the common IELTS cue cards as well as the common topics. So in the part 1, you will be asked something about yourself. So practice talking about yourself, your hometown. There are a list of so many common questions on the internet. You can just go ahead and start practicing. As well as for the cue card, there are so many topics that you can practice with. So always make sure that when you're practicing speaking, how do you practice speaking? It does not always have to be with somebody. You don't have to practice with somebody. You can practice all by yourself. So just take a list of the commonly asked spoken topics for IELTS exam and just start to form your answers on that. And lastly, just go with the flow. Make sure not to feel nervous or anything. One quick tip I can give you is to breathe before you speak, because it will help you to calm yourself, and use a good body posture. Make sure to maintain eye contact, have a good smile, use your hands while talking, and you will be doing good in your exam. So that was it. That were my tips. If you have any other questions related to IELTS exam, please let me know in the comments below. That was it, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.